Okay, sir, you can go ahead for your presentation.
Hey, thank you, Alex. I appreciate you having me on your cast today. And it's good to be here. And thank you for the audience for paying attention. I just got a few minutes. I wanted to talk to you about IP digital assets and how we're using NFTs in the IP space. So first, to give people context, I thought I'd start with a little bit of background. My name is Erich Spangenberg. I was a founder of a large licensing company, trolling company, depending on your perspective, called IP Nav from 2003 to 2013. Invested heavily in predictive analytics starting in 2007, sold that business off in 2013, and then kept the predictive analytics business. Use that for a short strategy that we executed on with Kyle Bass. And then in about 2017, I became familiar with Bitcoin. And like everybody else, I was fascinated by it, but really didn't know much about it. Sometime in the fall of 2017, I discovered this thing called CryptoKitties, which for me was the first NFT. Maybe there were NFTs earlier, like I read about ColorCoin and whatnot, but the first one I was familiar with was CryptoKitties. And my initial reaction to it was, hey, this is interesting, but this can't be why Satoshi published the white paper. Like there has to be, an enterprise use case for this, large corporate use case for this. And I need to figure that out. So now fast forward into 2018, I teamed up with a couple of people that I'd worked with at IP Nav and Brian Berman, and we started thinking about what we could do in the blockchain space. And that epiphany probably came to me sometime in late 2018, around December of 2018. And the idea is that we could combine what we'd been doing in the predictive analytics AI space with blockchain. And the idea is that because the information would be in a standardized format on the blockchain, it would be easier to get the data and run it and run analysis. And this was a really high level idea. And it started to take shape in January of 2019 when we were fortunate enough for IBM to pick IPWE to run through their accelerator programs. So as a result of this, became much more familiar with blockchain and much more familiar with sort of what the technology capabilities were. And IBM was wonderful. They would spend 3 days a week with us in different cities, and we'd have complete access to their executive team. And so that's about the time I started to become really interested in NFTs and said, hey, what could we really do with these? And why would they be important? And we made the usual progression from Ethereum and stumbled over that because of the gas cost, Hyperledger and Hyperledger Fabric, and thought that was actually a pretty cool solution, and started to build out in Hyperledger what it was that we wanted to do. And so the idea is that what was important was that the AI component would lower the discovery cost, like what information is in that patent that a business person needs to know, and how could we extract that information most efficiently and most cost effectively without engaging, hundreds of humans to do it. And then separately, what could we do with that information that would overall, impact favorably either commercialization rates, financing rates, or, frankly, in general, utilization rates. So we came up, again, working closely with IBM, came up with a bunch of ideas that I won't spend too much time on today. But one of them is that the NFT would be the central component on that. So I'll give you some indication as to how this works. So again, IPWE digital assets are our version of NFT. They run on Casper. Casper is a public-private blockchain that we think is best suited for enterprise and SMEs for a bunch of reasons I won't bore your audience with. But the key is that we extract data from these patents using some of the great data sources, great extraction technology that we've developed since 2007. And then we can record that to the individual assets NFT. So let's take a patent, not a patent application, in this particular example. There'll be 20 fields of data. that we can put on there. And then what we can do that's interesting is that it can be verified. So the first step is that the company verifies it. The second step is that we verify it. So if it doesn't match with a public record, for example, we find what we call an anomaly, and then we get it verified. And why is that important? So the NFT doesn't need to be the ultimate source of truth. Credibility will determine a lot of things in the go forward world. I think that we were a little bit over optimistic as to how and what the capabilities truly were of blockchain in the very early days of blockchain. But verified data, particularly where you're verifying it primarily for your own purposes, is critically important. So what happens is that key aspects, key elements that are abstracted, the ownership, how long, what's the life of the patent, what's the quality rating on it that we give it. Is it a standard essential patent? Is there any transaction history associated with it that the company wants to make public? Some proxy on value, and then some rating, all of which we provide. That the company can decide to make that information public. Most of it is, or they can make the decision, for example, in the case of transactional history, either because of confidentiality obligations or because that's what they choose to do, is to populate it with private information that only they have. In fact, IPW doesn't see it either. The only people who see it are the company and the people with access and authority at the company to see it. That then becomes NFT'd on the Casper blockchain, and we can subsequently update the fields in the future if we need to. But that's what drives what we call our smart intangible asset management platform, which gives out information, and then it facilitates these transactions. But it also facilitates things like diligence and having the information all in one place. But the key here is that it's verified information. It's not just some information populated in a spreadsheet someplace. And so it's incredibly useful and drives down transaction costs. The reason that we think the companies are taking to this as quickly as they are, and the uptake on this has been pretty impressive. We'll have a big announcement on this in just before Thanksgiving. Is that it starts to abstract the complexity out of the patent, and really as this asset starts to shift, and it absolutely is shifting, where finance people pay more attention to it, and other people in the company start to pay attention to it. It's a way for the company players to communicate with each other. The patent professional and the lawyers can use it for whatever their purposes are, and the business people and business leaders can use it for whatever their purposes are. It, in fact, will lower license costs and reduce transaction complexity. And through one of our products, Smart Pools, where we now have in less than 8 months over 500 members, I think we've proven the use case. We've proven use case on that. And one of the things we're most excited about is that the companies, and again, most companies will keep this private, is that they can start to record the history of value on it, which starts to give them a much better insight as to how this asset is performing, and they can start applying, regular asset management metrics to it, and metrics beyond just how many they have. So one of the things we're really excited about is that the roadmap on this. So today, what the NFT does is, the IPW digital asset does is that it stores critical public, and if the company chooses, private verified information in one place. Instead of having to search through multiple databases, you can find it all on that particular NFT, going all the way back to conception. If that's what you want to do, you can hash to it, and we'll store an IPFS, whatever related information you want, whether you want to keep your inventor notebooks, not keep your inventor notebooks, store the file history on it or not. We let you do that. And we actually work with the company to make sure that there's no anomalies in the form of information that's public that doesn't match up with whatever information on the company records. Classic example would be that the assignment records wouldn't be in accord, and we can make sure that information gets fixed and gets properly recorded, and it actually enables a level of analytics that otherwise wasn't previously possible. And when I mean analytics, I don't mean list of patents that patent professionals and lawyers love. I mean things like ratings that business people are going to be able to use. which we think are important as this asset starts to cross over into other areas, and particularly finance. On our roadmap and what we see, what's going to be happening soon, in the early part of January 2023, we'll launch a IP digital asset specifically designed for trade secrets. It's a way to capture them. We were a little bit surprised at how most companies do that. I thought that everybody kept it in the safe like they did for the recipe for Coke or whatever, but apparently that's not how it works. So we think that this is a better solution for that, but also can capture related IP either in classic formats, copyright, trademarks, or more importantly, is an easy way to capture related know-how related to either a trade secret and or a know-how related to a patent. Coming soon, and we have the capability now, but we don't utilize it, is that our tokens will be able to issue subsidiary tokens that evidence licensing rights, liens, or some type of transactional interest. That'll launch in Q2 of 2023, and your licensing right, for example, can be evidenced by an NFT if that's what you prefer. A lot, and the license agreement can be hashed to that. And then a ways off, and this will be until a point in time until the legal picture becomes much clearer. So we deal primarily with larger companies who, from a regulatory perspective, are appropriately so extremely conservative. So trading or anything that looks vaguely like a security is definitely not of interest to them. In time, that those issues will get worked out, and we'll figure out what's going on. It'll be easier for everyone, but that's probably a few years off. And we have the capability built into them to facilitate both third-party interest, fractional ownership interest through the NFT, that we think will be exciting. So what you're seeing here is that ultimately the digital transformation of IP, we thought it would happen, at some point in time, and it was a little bit longer in coming than we thought when we started IPWE in 2018. But it's a reality, and you'll see more of it as we go forward over the coming months. It's now a reality. It took a little bit of time, but I'm excited to be part of it, and excited to be at the front of this with the rest of my team. Alex, thank you for the time today.
Oh, thank you very much for your fascinating presentation.
Good.